Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Movie Battleground. My name is Hunter Confidential, and I'm filling in today for Aaron because he is on vacation. And we have a pretty good match today. We have Kevin Poss, the runner of TMGeek, and we have Hunter Chambless, which I will let him introduce what he is a part of today. This is going to be a fun one. This is a debate league that I am a part of, but also I'm a big fan of. I love debate in general, and I love talking movies, and these two competitors have picked some questions that they're passionate about, and I know that they're going to bring the fire. So without any further ado, let's just jump right into it. First off, we're going to talk to Kevin Poss and see what he has to say. Kevin, what are your thoughts on your opponent? What were your thoughts, without giving specifics into your actual prep, but what are your thoughts on how you approach this match, and are you nervous at all?
Yeah, man. Nerves always come with matches, especially debate matches, because you don't really know what's coming at you. Trivia, I mean, it's just you and the questions, but you know, obviously here Hunter is a great opponent. And he could, you know, he come in here really prepped and put me on my ass. And I'm not the best public speaker. I'll go ahead and say that. But I have put some work into it. I've watched some movies, and done some research. So, I feel pretty confident coming back in, this being my second go around in the, debate league. So hoping I can keep the streak going from last year.
That's what I'm talking about. And with that said, Hunter Chambless, your opponent, let's go ahead and bring him in. Hunter, you like to talk movies and you like to show your opinions. Do you feel like you're very prepped for this? Do you feel like you're a match for your opponent? And in general, are you ready to have some fun?
I am not prepared at all. I'm just going to go with the flow. I'm going to go with pretty much bounce off what my opponent says. That's my whole strategy. I picked some great movies that I am passionate about. And yeah, I'm always ready to have fun. Let's do it.
That's what I'm talking about. So, yeah. All right. So we all know how this goes. We have 4 questions that were given ahead of time. 2 questions. Each competitor decided that they want to choose first, and 1 strength from each. The first question that we're going to be talking about today is, what is Edgar Wright's best film? And Hunter decided to go first on this one. Mm-hmm. So we will start off with Hunter with his 1-minute opening. Then we'll bounce back over to Kevin with his 1-minute opening. And then back over to Hunter for 2 minutes. Back over to Kevin for 2 minutes. And then there's going to be 4 minutes open debate where, as Aaron likes to say, that they're going to scratch each other's eyes out, or whatever he says. I don't have the rights for his exact quote. So without further ado, let's go ahead and start off with Hunter for what is Edgar Wright's best film.
All right, so the movie I picked for Edgar Wright's best picture is 2017's Baby Driver. When it came out, this movie was one of my instant favorites. You know, you look at the way he uses music in the background to really enhance the experience, how it had really good comedic timing with really serious, dramatic, and very intense action moments. The characters, the actors that he had involved really, really brought their A game, and not just at the starring lead, but your supporting roles, everything like that, really melds together to make, in my opinion, Edgar Wright's best picture. I'm going to cut my time.
It looks like Hunter is good with his time there. We're going to bounce over to Kevin when he starts speaking.
All right, and my pick for Edgar Wright's best film is 2004's Shaun of the Dead. Everybody pretty much knows this film, but it is mostly a zombie film, but it is also a rom-com. I also consider it a buddy comedy. It has some action sequences. You'll laugh, you'll cry. I feel like Edgar keeps it fresh from start to finish. And you want to talk about actors and supporting roles, this one is full of them. So I'll get into that more during my main argument. So I will relinquish my time.
All right. And then once again, we're going to bounce back over to Hunter for his 2 minutes when he starts.
So when you look at a film like Baby Driver, you have to look at not only the ensemble cast he has, but you have to look at the fact that he uses the music and the soundtrack as really a secondary character in this film. Because Baby in the movie has tinnitus and he uses the music to do his job and things like that. Not only that, but the movie begins with a fantastic action scene at a bank that really gets you invested in the movie and in the characters immediately. They're bad people doing bad things, but you can't help to be drawn into the situation that you're in. You have a great female lead, in Lily James, who does fantastic in this film. You have Jamie Foxx as Bats, is a really, really psychotic, really fun character. John Barenthal, and just a lot of different types of people that are coming together to make one of, in my opinion, the most fun, action-packed, just insane rides that Edgar Wright has ever done. I'm going to relinquish my time.
Alrighty, so that is Hunter's 2 minutes. And before we get to the opening, Kevin with his 2 minutes, and when he starts speaking.
All right. So yeah, I know that ensemble casts are kind of Edgar Wright's big thing. I noticed you didn't mention one of the big cast members there in Kevin Spacey, but yes, music is used as a character in that film, but it's also used as a character in all of his films. I feel like there's for example in Shaun of the Dead, they use Queen in the final scene in the Winchester when they're duking it out. You know, they go to the jukebox. But yeah, anyway, so as far as this being the zombie film, it's more of a look at live culture, like real culture, that we are zombies ourselves. And I like that it's really a look into humanity and not just a regular zombie film. I like the romantic comedy because it's just a straightforward rom-com, because he's trying to win back Liz. Sean is trying to win back Liz. He's doing everything that he can, but he loves his buddy Ed. And then he has Davs and Diane obviously trying to get Liz to not go back to him. So that's a cool little rom-com built in there. Then you have the action stuff, and that's a slice of fried gold in and of itself. I see my time ticking down, so I'll carry on during my 5 minutes.
Alrighty, so they both had their openings and the rebuttals, so now they're having a chance to go back and forth, open style debate when they start talking. Let them have it.
All right, so I will start with this. Kevin, you said that music is a big element of Edgar Wright's films, and you brought up Shaun of the Dead. Well, I will argue Baby Driver uses that and really plugs it into the script, while in Shaun of the Dead, he uses a Queen song, but it really has nothing to do with the moment in the Winchester. He could have used any song. But like in Baby Driver, what's cool about it is he picks songs that are based around a playlist that Baby has to have because of his tinnitus, and that's how he drives. That's what moves the picture along, is the music that he is listening to. I feel like Edgar Wright could have used any music in that scene, and it would have been just as fine.
This isn't which Edgar Wright movie uses music best. This is which Edgar Wright movie is the best. Yeah. So okay, so yes, you're right that he uses music very well in Baby Driver, but I mean, even in the scene where, you know, they're throwing the records at the two zombies, Mary and the big zombie in the backyard, they're talking about you know, which record is this? Batman '89. Go ahead and throw that one. Sade. Oh, Liz bought me that one. Like, things like that. You know, don't throw my first album because I like that one. So if you're going to talk about music in the film, you know, there's definitely some, you know, musical elements that are in all of his films, I believe, and they can be dug a little deeper. Yes, the tinnitus thing and him listening to music is a constant in Baby Driver, but I don't believe that is the only thing that can be related to in Baby Driver.
I will also say this. I feel like I believe in the rom-com element, as you said, in Shaun of the Dead, but I feel like that is done 10 times better here in Baby Driver between Baby and Deborah, because you really do feel the connection between not only actors but the characters themselves, what they've been through, what each of their characters are bringing into this relationship, and the fact that you can really tell that Baby would do anything for Deborah in this film, including putting his life on the line. And as we see towards the end of the movie, he actually ends up killing somebody over her to protect her. That is something that I don't get in Shaun of the Dead. I get more of a bromance feel between Simon Pegg and Nick Frost in the film than I do between Nick Frost and, Simon Pegg and his love interest in the film.
Well, even if the love interest is the bromance, is there a problem with that? I mean, it's a zombie film, all first and foremost. I did say that it is a romantic comedy because it does have those elements. He does go and to pick his, but he also goes to pick his mom. Also has elements where he goes to pick up Philip, where him and Philip have had a struggling relationship since he was 12 years old, where Philip is his stepfather. And he eventually, right before Philip dies and becomes a zombie, he actually comes to terms with Philip and actually...
I feel like Edgar Wright, in this movie, particularly in Shaun of the Dead, he uses his comedy so much that it does take away from these dramatic moments, like the Philip scene or whatever. You have a lot of stuff flying your way that you cannot really delve deep into this character development as you do in Baby Driver, where the comedy is still there, but you do have time for serious moments.
Time. All right, a lot of passion back and forth. Definitely an interesting take on this. Before we get to the judges, each competitor is going to have 1 minute to close out their argument one at a time, and we are going to start off with Hunter.
All right, so as I said, not only is Baby Driver one of his best films, it's the best use of music and soundtrack in the film. It has very good character development serious moments on top of having dramatic moments, on top of having a really great, opening scene with the bank robbery, a really good action ending, just a huge ensemble cast that really works together, and you can really tell that they had fun on this film. Baby Driver, in my opinion, is one of Edgar Wright's best films.
All right. Are you going to end it there?
Yes.
All right. Then we are going to finish off with Kevin for his closing, and then we will be going on to the judges.
All right. While Baby Driver might be one of Edgar Wright's best films, I believe Shaun of the Dead is his best film. Talking about at the beginning, Sean is getting drunk with Ed because he's just been dumped by Liz, his girlfriend. Then the zombie apocalypse takes place. Then they are. He's going around trying to keep things held together. Basically, he's kind of aloof at the beginning, and he has to basically come to terms with learning how to be, a good friend, a good boyfriend, a good son, and a good, just a good all-around person. And so even at the end, him and Sean and Liz contemplate suicide. Ed does elect being devoured by the zombies. Luckily, none of that happens.
And time. All right. Question 1 is in the books. We are going to send both competitors to the back, and we're going to have a chance to talk to the judges, introduce them, and see what they think. So, introducing in the order of where they pop in, we have Jake Tato. Haven Pendergast, and then Ross. So I'm going to give you all a couple seconds to gather your thoughts. Ross, nice to meet you. Jake,
too.
as always, nice to see you. And we're not going to be able to see Haven, but we are going to be able to hear him. All right, I bantered enough. We are going to start off with Jake in 30 seconds or less. That's important. Aaron will kill me if I let you go over. 30 seconds or less. Give us your primary thought of why you picked your person and who it is.
Your mic's muted, dude. Unmute your mic.
You're a mic. So, as I was saying, Kevin got it done for me. He was able to counter the music argument, and Hunter stumbled a bit. This is a tight match, but Hunter stumbled, and Kevin was able to counter. So, Kevin.
All right. So, first point from the judge is going to go to Kevin. We're going to go over to Ross next. Ross, what is your decision in 30 seconds or less?
Okay, I was with Hunter up until he said one of the best. The minute that he said one of the best, the question wasn't one of the best, it was the best. So then I'm going to go with Kevin.
All right, so we're not going to be hearing from Haven on this one, but we will on the next one. So the first point is going to go to Kevin. All right, gentlemen, you are back. So first point going to Kevin, and we're going to move on to the second question. There you go. That's what we like to hear. Second question. What is the film featuring – okay. What is the best film featuring Hugh Jackman released in either the 90s or the 2000s? Kevin elected to go first on this one, so we will start off with his opening, and then we'll bounce back and forth as we've already been doing.
The film I selected as the best Hugh Jackman movie from the 90s or 2000s is X2, also marketed as X2 X-Men United, directed by Bryan Singer, and is equal to X-Men. Everybody pretty much knows this this franchise. A huge cast of characters. Music by John Ottman is great. But Hugh Jackman's role as Wolverine really develops here, and he's a mysterious guy. Got the adamantium skeleton, but this is really where I feel like he comes across and establishes himself as Wolverine. So I feel like this carries him on even to today. So I feel like X2 is his best 90s or 2000s film.
And time. All right, we're going to go over to Hunter for his opening.
All right, so the film I picked for Hugh Jackman's best movie from the 2000s or the 90s is 2006's The Prestige, directed by the great Christopher Nolan. And for a few reasons, actually. The whole idea of this movie is two magicians going back and forth trying to one-up each other. And what's great about this movie is you are locked from the very beginning. You are trying to see what lengths will these people go to one-up each other and to get the respect of one another. And look at the cast. You have Christian Bale, Scarlett Johansson, Michael Caine, Rebecca Hall. Just a huge star-listed film. This movie is intense. It is fantastic. It is darkly funny in a way, and the way that the movie climaxes, you are really on the edge of your seat, realizing what are they willing to do to each other.
All right, so now we're going to bounce back over Kevin for his rebuttal. 2 minutes when he starts talking.
I actually am going to use this for what it's supposed to be used for and rebut. I think The Prestige has just about everything I want in a magician movie except The Prestige. You're introduced at the outset by Michael Caine that every magic trick has 3 acts. The pledge, which is a real situation that is set up. The turn, which is the reality is challenged. And then the prestige, where everything is set back right again. And that is not used in this film. At the end, everything turns really sci-fi, and I don't think that they really ever get back to the full prestige. And I don't think that that they do a very good job of that. As far as Angier's role, as Jackman's role goes, he does a decent job, but I just think it's kind of a, you know, you're having the wool being pulled over your eyes, and it's just not, it's not the kind of magician movie that I'd like to see. Like I said, you know, you want to see that end be pulled off, the prestige be pulled off, and it just kind of was very cheesy in my mind at the end there with the Tesla thing. But anyway, yeah, I'm gonna concede my time for now, and then I'll get back into X2 whenever we get into the 5-minute argument.
Alrighty, and then last but not least, in the rebuttal portion, we're going to go to Hunter, and then 2 minutes when he starts talking.
This is where I hugely disagree with you about the idea of this film. The idea of this film is it sets up a magician story just to where the ultimate magic trick is you don't see the prestige. You don't see the final act. In my opinion, what's great about that is it's set up just like a real magic show. You want to know more. You want to see more, and it cuts off just before you get the big reveal. It leaves the audience wanting more in anticipation, and that's what it got from me. I wanted to see more, but I understood that the whole idea is not really the magic show itself. The whole idea is look at what these two guys are willing to do to, one, pull the wool over the audience's eyes, but also to elevate themselves and elevate their opponent as well. And that's what makes this movie great. It's the rivalry between the two main characters, and the idea of they keep pushing the bounds and pushing the bounds, and you're just like, what? When is enough going to be enough? And that's what I love. And the ultimate end to the magic trick is that you don't know what's coming next, and they leave you wanting just a bit more at the end of it. I'm conceding my time.
Alrighty, so we gonna give them a couple seconds to think, and that's enough. All right, 4 minutes when you begin talking. Go at it back and forth. Let's see the passion, and 4 minutes when you start.
You could argue that X2 is not even the best X-Men film, nor the best performance of Hugh Jackman in the X-Men franchise as Wolverine. I would say Logan and I would say Days of Future Past are way better in showing Wolverine and Hugh Jackman's performances than X2. Sorry, you're muted.
This is 90s and 2000s, though. Those are 2014 and 2017 films. You have to be knowledgeable when you're coming into this and know what you're talking about, or you're just wasting time during these arguments, man. So this is the best 90s or 2000 performance from Hugh Jackman, because he's going in at Alkali Lake. He doesn't know. He's looking for clues into his past. He doesn't find anything. He is he's a basically he comes into this father figure role by the end of the film, despite all the havoc and carnage from the first film. You know, there's so much more in this X-Men. You know, you talk about your cast being big. Mine in X-Men X2 obviously is huge. I won't go into that, but I think everybody, all the judges should know. I mean, you know, Patrick Stewart, McKellen, Barry, Famke Janssen, James Marsden, Romain Stamos, Brian Cox, just to name a few. I mean, yours does have a big cast, but it doesn't utilize them in the way that X-Men does. And even like you say, going into those further films, this is where Logan actually begins to develop, and he wouldn't be Logan in the 2017 version if he wasn't able to establish that character in this movie. So this is where
you
I
also
feel
got to look at, when you're talking about best Hugh Jackman movies, you have to look at not only the ensemble, but you have to look at his performances, and you have to look at the overall story. I feel like in The Prestige, you get top-notch acting Hugh Jackman, when in X2, you get more of the action hero Hugh Jackman, where he's doing the one-liners and things like that. You don't get to see a lot of his acting chops that you do in The Prestige. You get to see him forefront with bouncing off of, you know, Scarlett Johansson, and bouncing off of Christian Bale, and bouncing off of, you know, this great script, and being directed by Christopher Nolan in a way that I feel like he doesn't get to do in the X-Men franchise. He doesn't get to show his acting skills as much as he does in other films, especially one like The Prestige, where it's all on him, and he does such a great job with this huge role he's given.
I definitely think that is I don't think that's a Hugh Jackman thing. I think that's a Bryan Singer decision based on the Wolverine character. I mean, Wolverine had a great fight sequence. His Titanic battle that he had in X2 against a character who also has blades. So it's like he's equivalently matched. You don't really know what's going to happen there. I mean, you can kind of picture it, but it's like you can reasonably ask what threat could be meaningful to mutants with such remarkable powers, but it all boils down to what's going on in his head. He has no memory of his past. And
again, you have to look at the idea of overarching storyline.
All right, so that was the 4-minute open debate. We are going to start off with Kevin for his 1-minute closing when he begins talking.
X2 is a highly rated movie in the X-Men franchise. Not only that, it's a highly rated movie just in Hugh Jackman's filmography, especially from the 90s and 2000s. Like I talked about, that's what this question is about. It's not even necessarily it's what is the best Hugh Jackman performance. It's what is the best Hugh Jackman movie. So that's the key here. It's tightly scripted, solidly acted. It's very ambitious. It's bigger and better than X-Men from 2000. And Cinema Score gives it an A. It has an 85% on Rotten Tomatoes. And I know, you know, when people bring up numbers and stuff like that, it usually gets a little hairy, but this is one of those movies where it really established a character that it has carried on into today, even into the late 2000s, and made him who he is today.
All righty, and then we're going to go over to Hunter to finish off this question.
So, when I hear what is the best Hugh Jackman movie, I look at everything. I look at ensemble. I look at movie entirely. I look at the performance of Hugh Jackman himself. And that's where I'm coming from with this. This is Hugh Jackman's best movie because not only is it a tightly scripted, intense drama movie, but it really gets to show the acting prowess of someone like Hugh Jackman that the X-Men movies can never do, because it is all about the spectacle. It's all about the action scenes. It's all about these other characters, the other mutants. This is all on Hugh Jackman. It's make or break with him and Christian Bale. Those are the two you're focused on. And Hugh Jackman more than carries his way in this film. This is Hugh Jackman's best film.
All right, and that is how we are going to end this round. So I'm going to take the competitors to the back. We're going to bring back the judges, and we're going to see who won round 2. I'm such a great producer. Look at me bringing all these guys to the front with no hands. All right, so give you a couple seconds to think. 1, 2. All right, we're going to start off with Ross on this one. In 30 seconds or less, give us your primary point of why they're taking it and who you got.
I'm going with Kevin again, only because like he brought up about how the sci-fi almost distracts from the movie, you know, the sci-fi twist. And then like I actually agree with him on that. Because if they just had that one twist, you know, it would have been, you know, like it would have been The Prestige. But I got to go with X2 based on the argument about, you know, like about the sci-fi. Because the X-Men, they do not, they know what they are.
Alrighty. So the first point is going to go to Kevin on that one. We're going to go to Haven for the second one in 30 seconds or less. Give us your primary pick and who you're picking.
I agree. I'm gonna have to go with Kevin in this one. He just brought a lot more facts. You know, he brought up who did the music. He brought up the score for Rotten Tomatoes, 85%. Hunter didn't bring up the score, which his movie was only ranked 76. So, I mean, it doesn't really matter. I mean, Hunter's first argument was his cast was star listed, but it's weird. It's actually star studded. I think he meant to say. I've never heard anybody say star listed. They're talking about a movie. Yeah, just, you know, Kevin brought out just more points for his film and the direction of the film went and the range. So I have to give it to Kevin.
All right. So once again, we're not going to be hearing from the third judge on this one. The second point is going to go to Kevin, and we are going to be going on to question 3 with Kevin currently up 2-0, as you see there scrolling on the bottom.
Good job.
Good job, buddy. Hey, no worries.
All right, so as you might have watched something a few months ago at this point or weeks ago, depending on the point of filming, Hunter is a big fan of horror, so he chose go first. He chose to go first on this question, which is, what is the most underrated Friday the 13th film of the entire franchise? So, like I said, Hunter's going to be going first. 1 minute opening when he begins.
All right, so the movie I picked was Freddie versus Jason. This is the 11th movie in both of the franchises, and to me, completely underrated. This movie is so much fun. It delivers exactly what the title says. It gives you Freddie versus Jason, 2 horror icons going at it one-on-one, and you get a really great story about how they both meet. How Freddie is not being feared as much, and he lives off of fear. So he brings back Jason as his puppet. He uses Jason, and then the fight begins. Just gory action all the way through. You're never bored. You never lose interest. Just high intensity all the time. Bloody, gory, fun movie. So I'm gonna allot my time.
All right. So first opening from Hunter. We're going to bounce over to Kevin, see what his movie is and what his thoughts are.
All right. My movie is 2009's remake of Friday the 13th. And that was directed by Marcus Nispel. And it is basically, it was originally conceived as an origin story, but it actually evolved into a reimagining of the first 4 Friday the 13th films by Sean S. Cunningham. And I think Nispel did a great job because this one has so many aspects that, you know, the originals don't have. And when you talk about an underrated Jason film, it's kind of hard to find because when you look at Rotten Tomatoes scores and things that there are, I will get more into that later. But this one, Friday the 13th, 2009 is my pick.
All righty. And Hunter's 2-minute rebuttal when he begins talking.
I will say this on the 2009 pick. I do not count it as underrated because right now it has found its audience. It has found people who absolutely love this movie because it does take the franchise more seriously. It does bring back, the idea of a scary Jason. So to me, the most underrated is one that not a lot of people love, but there is an audience for it. Or there's a small enough audience out there. And for me, Freddy vs. Jason is that movie. There are people who hate this movie, but there are people who absolutely love this movie. But because it is just so much fun, it doesn't take itself too seriously. You have Robert Englund coming back as Freddy Krueger. It brings the two horror icons together and in a way that not a lot of people have seen before. And this was the first movie that really did the ultimate crossover thing before the Avengers, before anything else. You had this crossover movie that no one thought was possible. So to you saying the 2009 version, I do not see that as underrated because it has found a massive audience of people who do love it. I'm allotting my time.
Alrighty, and last but not least, for the rebuttal portion, Kevin, when he begins talking.
If you want to say that it's not underrated, it has a 26% Rotten Tomatoes score compared to a 46% audience score. I would call that underrated. Freddy vs. Jason took forever to get made. Yes, it may be fun in terms of, you know, throwing two horror icons together, but it's a little bit ridiculous in terms of the story. And at least Friday the 13th has a 25-minute opening, a cold opening where you have a complete reset where, you know, you even go back and see from the original, you see Mrs. Voorhees get her head chopped off. You see Jason watching from the bushes as a child. You see Jason wearing a bag over his head later in life. You get to see Jason find the mask and put it on and wear it. And he's intellectual in this movie. He's more like the Texas Chainsaw Killer. He's more like Michael. He's got some brains in this movie, whereas in other movies I feel like he is made just to be an idiot, or you do have to suspend some disbelief. These movies are just made mostly to see some boobies and drink a beer and have a good time. I get that. But in terms of underrated, you got to go by the numbers, and I definitely think 46 compared to a 26% Rotten Tomatoes score. The fans have spoken, and this one is underrated. So I'll get more into it in my 5-minute argument.
All right. So before we get into the opening, I want to talk about how the fact that I'm silly. I didn't write this question. So the whole time that they were thinking, I was like, man, these are interesting choices for the best entry in the franchise. It's most underrated. So we're going to have some fun 4 minutes when they begin talking.
All right. I mean, like I said, this one starts off in a, it rehashes all the way from the 80s. And then it brings us to present day, 2009. And we get
the only problem with this movie is the fact that it really fucks up the first movie in terms of we see that Jason drowned in the lake, but now all of a sudden he is just in the wilderness this whole time. Like, it kind of, as a opening that's supposed to show you what happens in the first 3 movies, it really takes liberties with the first movie, which is Jason drowned in the lake, hence why Mrs. Voorhees goes on the killing spree. He wasn't just off in the wilderness somewhere hiding, being a survivalist. That takes away the whole idea of the first 25 minutes, which is you've already messed up something that you want to pay homage to.
Like I said, it's a reimagining of the first 4 films, and so therefore, it's not a reincarnation. It's not a remake. It's a reimagining. So yeah, this is something I think that I think Nispel did very well. Bringing in characters that, that first 25 minutes, you're really focused on, like, there's some quick kills there, and you're kind of, you're already seeing some, they're there and they're wondering, you hear the story of Jason, kind of a quick story by the campfire, and and they can't. They're getting no
But
GPS.
also, I mean, as you said in your previous argument, though, you go to these types of films not for a dramatic story. You go to it to have fun, to see blood, to see, you know, nudity and things like that. That's what the audience wants to see. So what Freddy vs. Jason does well is it takes two horror icons that you do love because you've had 10 movies to grow with them, and they give you excess violence, excess nudity, drugs, everything that a horror movie is centered around. That's what you get in this movie. You get a fun, entertaining slasher movie that really, at the heart of it, has a really good reason why Freddy and Jason are fighting each other. It's one that makes sense, that shows why Freddy is really smart and really this, you know, dream demon in a way, because he uses the nightmares and the dreams to lure Jason to fight, to get more.
There are no stakes in this movie, though. Nobody cares about the kids. And in the movie,
no one cares about the kids in the 09 version.
Yes, they do. Jared Padalecki.
No, they do not.
He's
you
going
have good actors in that movie, but no one cares about them because they're not developed enough. These movies are not, like, you don't go there for the characters. You go to see the characters die.
Jared Padalecki.
And in the 09, they give you a little bit of development that you just don't care about.
Jared Padalecki's character is going around after the 25-minute cold open, actually looking for his sister. And even the cop comes to him and says, you know, I sent 2 of my best 10-year vets out there looking for her. She's dead. And he is not going to stop looking for his sister. So he is bound and determined. So that at least puts something out there for them to be looking for. There's some basis for them to be looking for. You're talking about
the basis that they never go back to towards the end half of the movie. It just becomes another slasher film.
Okay, but I'm assuming time's over.
Yeah. Alrighty. So with that said, that was the open portion. We're going to jump into the closings, and Hunter's going to start when he does in fact start.
As I said, you go into a Friday the 13th movie looking for gore, for blood, for an entertaining ride, and this gives you 2 horror icons to play off of. You get the comedy of Robert Englund. You get the ultra violence of Jason and Freddie. You get just so much of what the movie tells you it is. Freddie versus Jason. You get just this epic fight between these 2 horror icons. No one goes into these movies expecting character development because these are slasher films. These are films that you have fun with, that you go and just turn your mind off for 90 minutes or so just to enjoy a ride. And this one, you get the more bang for your buck because you get 2 of these legendary characters that you grow to love. All right, I'm running my time.
Alrighty, and last but not least, Kevin, 1 minute when you begin speaking.
All right, so in Freddy versus Jason, Freddy Krueger is called by one character a F-A-G-G-O-T. I'm not going to say it out loud. In a Christmas sweater, he only kills literally 1 or 2 people. Jason obviously isn't afraid of water because he has no problem battling Freddy in water in the movie. But like I said, 46% Rotten Tomatoes score, or 26% Rotten Tomatoes score compared to a 46% fan score. It made $92.7 million at the box office off a $19 million budget, did the 2009 Friday the 13th remake. I do believe this is the most underrated Friday the 13th film of the franchise. I think it was a great job by Nispel doing what is a combination of the first 4 films.
And time. All right, we're going to send the competitors to the back. We're going to bring on the judges, convene, and come up with our winner for this round. All right, give you a couple seconds to verify your points. And Haven, we are going to start off with you in 30 seconds or less. Let us know why you're picking your person and who are you going to pick. Surprise.
All right. For this one, I think they both picked the wrong movie, but I'm not playing. Yeah, I mean, Kev really put this nail in the coffin if he brought up the documentary after Friday 13th. Had 3 shitty movies that they didn't know the Jason character, the best neither here or there. I'm gonna give this one to Hunter. Even though his movie is technically, I mean, nobody considers the Friday 13th one, like that shit is dead. But Hunter was able to really impress me in the 4-minute round. He was like a little chihuahua. He kept nipping at the heels. He was not giving Kevin any time to make his point at all. So I'm gonna give this one to Hunter for a 4-minute round. He really stepped up his game after the first 2 rounds.
All right. Hunter shows his passion based on Haven's site there. We're going to jump over to Jake now. What is, in 30 seconds or less, why are you picking who, and who are you picking why?
Hunter got it for me here, too. Fun, blood, and boobies and development are words he said that I love. But yes, on the real, he did just get it there why it is the better slasher flick, and Friday the 13th is better on slashers, and Kevin just had a minor stumble at the end there. So, Hunter.
All right. So, keeping up with the trend, 2 and out, we are going to be going over to the final question because they're going to be, the final prep question, no knockouts today.
It is funny that the only one I'm going to win is horror, by the way.
Hey, you don't speak too soon. And speaking of amazing, what is the most underrated video game film of all time? Ooh, aren't we excited for this one? Video game movies, everyone loves them.
Yeah.
So we are going to be starting off with Kevin, 1-minute opening when you are ready.
My selection for the most underrated video game film is 2020's Sonic the Hedgehog, directed by Jeff Fowler, starring Ben Schwartz as the titular Sonic, Jim Carrey as Dr. Robotnik, James Marsden is an awesome cop in this that is hilarious. And this, this movie is, coming at, for one that came out during COVID, I think it is certainly underrated, if not one of the best video game films I've seen in a long time. So I'll bequeath my time.
All right. 1 minute from Kevin there. 1 minute from Hunter when he begins speaking.
So the film I picked for the most underrated video game movie is Tomb Raider 2018. When you look at the Tomb Raider series and you look at especially the games, the 2017 game that came out, this is really what it's basing its story around. It's a more grounded story with a lot of good actors involved. It really works as a Indiana Jones adventure type film that, in my opinion, the critics really did not show this film enough love for what it was. It showed you a great female-led centric film. Alicia Vikander is fantastic as Lara Croft in this film. I feel like this is the most underrated video game movie of all time. A lot of my time.
All righty. Rebuttals starting off with Kevin when he begins speaking.
So, Sonic the Hedgehog is, from the very beginning, when you see the Paramount logo, it starts off, instead of the stars coming across the water and going above the mountain, it starts off with rings, Sonic's rings. It takes you straight into the video game world, and Sonic is Ben Schwartz is narrating, and I love how they take you in media res and take you in the middle of the movie, and then take you back to the beginning to explain how they got there. And they take it from his world, from Sonic's world, and then take it into the real world. And then they kind of show a mix in between there. There are some great shots. And I know this movie went through some really bad ups and downs. It had its, it had some really bad CGI issues. And it could have been a real shit of a movie, but I'm really happy with the way it came out. And I think that I think that the box office, the 149 million in the U.S. and 170 in other territories, did well. Rotten Tomatoes has a 63%. The average rating of 5.9 out of 10. I still think that's a little low given how great this movie actually is if you watch it from beginning to end, because it has a lot of heart to it. So I'll get more into that during the debate round.
All righty. And Hunter, when you begin speaking.
All right, so as my opponent said, yes, Sonic the Hedgehog has a 63 and a 93 audience scores on Rotten Tomatoes, while my film has a 52 and a 55% on Rotten Tomatoes. This does not show how much this Tomb Raider movie is, like, I feel like the critics really did not see what this film was entirely. It's a fantastic, grounded action movie with a great female lead, and going off of Kevin's other argument in our last round, I will say Sonic the Hedgehog is not underrated, because if you look at the performance in the box office, if you look at the tomato meter, as the critics gave it a positive review, and you look at the audience score, which is overwhelmingly at 93%, to me, that's not underrated. That is a perfectly rated film for a video game movie. Actually, one of the highest rated video game movies out there. So to me, that doesn't make it underrated. Tomb Raider 2018 is underrated because it's a great movie that has a super low tomato meter critic score and audience score a lot of my time.
Alrighty, we are going to get into the very last open debate of this match in terms of the prep fights. So 4 minutes when you competitors begin speaking.
If you don't mind, Hunter, I'm going to correct myself on something. When I said 93%, that is the audience score. The tomatometer, the tomato meter, whatever you want to call it, I like to call it the tomatometer, 63%. So the 93% audience score is why I do think it is underrated. Your movie, Tomb Raider, has a 52% on the tomato meter and a 55% audience score. So I feel like that's pretty average. They got it right. But for reasons of that, it's boring, man. It has no feel.
See, that's where I completely disagree with you. Tomb Raider is not boring. It always keeps you on the edge of your seat. You always have
on the edge of your seat, man. It takes an hour and 18 minutes before you even get into a tomb.
All right, they're setting up character development, though. They're setting up the character of Laura Croft.
My movie's only an hour and a half long, and you have the whole premise and a sequel set up. And they go to San Francisco. They go to Sonic's.
Yeah, because your movie feels rushed, because they had to do
rushed. Then why is it rated 93%? Why is it rated 93%?
They had to do all this stuff in an hour and 30 minutes.
Why is it rated at 93% then,
my
man?
movie takes time to develop the character.
Yes, it takes time.
You're just high rated, but you're just high rated. That's why it's not underrated.
Hey, Hunter,
cannot be underrated.
Hunter, you talked during the horror one. I'm going to tell you some stories during this one. So when I watched Tomb Raider, all I watched was this. I watched her getting her ass kicked in boxing at the very beginning. I watched her lose her backpack, get stolen by 3 guys in Hong Kong. I watched her when she gets on this boat. Her and this guy managed to make it out in the middle of the in the middle of the sea. Just the two of them on this big ass boat that makes no sense at all. How did they have no crew? Like, your movie makes no sense. And then even when you get to Walton Goggins, who is a fantastic actor, he even looks like he would rather be jumping off the cliff that he's blowing up and trying to get in the tomb.
Let's talk about actors that nobody cares about in your film, and that's the character of Tom. Nobody cares about Tom. The whole movie is based around Jim Carrey's overacting that everybody loves because he reminds them of 90s Jim Carrey. I love Sonic. I do not care about the human characters. I do not care. I do not care about Tom. I do not care about anybody else.
Marsden is hilarious.
Character that is only made passable because of Jim Carrey, and Sonic because of the voice acting. That's it.
When Robotnik
no one cares about
up,
any of the other human characters in this film.
When Robotnik shows up to Tom's house, tries to get in, and he says, I play softball with one of your coworkers named whatever. You know, he's like, oh, okay, come on in. And then, you know, they bounce off each other so well. And then he puts his hand up. He's like, oh, his name's so-and-so. And he actually plays tennis. And like, they bounce off each other very well. And then him and Ben Stiller.
Well, Jim Carrey is literally Jim Carrey's still every scene.
93% of people peak for themselves, man.
Yes, hence why it's not underrated. An underrated film is
93% is not the tomato score. 63% is the tomato score. It is underrated by critics.
Out there. 60% is one of the highest rating for a video game movie out there. So it cannot be underrated.
It cannot be under. Okay. So, but yours is at 52. Mine's at 63. But yet my audience score is 93.
And time. Woo! Passions are there. Definitely a lot of clawing, but no more talking over each other. This one, this is your final closing for the prepped round. So we're going to start off with Kevin when you start talking.
I think the 63% Rotten Tomatoes critical response and the 93% viewer response is speaks volumes for Sonic the Hedgehog, especially for a film that was released during COVID. This film could have crashed and burned because Sonic is an older franchise. It's something that hasn't seen any kind of release. There's been Pokemon movies. There's been all this other stuff, and there's even been the Tomb Raider movies. But that Tomb Raider movie it pales in comparison to the Jolie movies. This Sonic the Hedgehog movie is a perfect beginning to this franchise, and they set up a perfect ending to it so that it could continue on, and I hope it does because I freaking love it. It is definitely underrated.
Alrighty, and Hunter, when you begin speaking, your final 1 minute from the prep questions.
The question is, what is the most underrated video game movie of all time? Sonic the Hedgehog has one of the highest audience scores and one of the highest critic rating of any video game movie out there. So to me, that doesn't make it underrated. My movie is a great movie that is not seen by the audience and critics as such. That is what makes it underrated, in my opinion. It is a fantastic action film with a great, strong female lead, and the last hour of this movie is all action, all tomb raiding, all what I love about the 2018 game they brought into this movie. And Sonic the Hedgehog wasn't released during COVID. It was released in January, so it had all that time before the COVID pandemic hit to make its money back. So to me, that does not make it an underrated video game movie. A lot of time.
Alrighty, there we go. We're going to send the competitors back, and in less than 2 minutes, we'll find out if we're going to the next question or if we're going to have a winner. So bringing in the judges here, we're going to, in 2 seconds, 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi. Jake, in 30 seconds or less, let us know who is your pick and one reason why.
This one ended up really tight. Hunter almost came there with the COVID window, but I did ultimately go to Kevin that the line where it takes an hour and 18 minutes to get to a tomb in the Tomb Raider line was too powerful. So point to Kevin.
All right. So Jake gives his point to Kevin because Tombless Raider. We're going to jump over to Ross. In 30 seconds or less, let us know who you picked and why.
I'm going to go with Hunter, only because, like, you know, like the lower score thing. Like if critics don't like it and then the audiences are mixed, then that's the definition of underrated. Versus, a 66 is not bad, and a 93% is great. So yeah.
All right. So Ross going with the critics and the scoring approach. So Haven, we are going to bounce it over to you for the tiebreaker, the first tiebreaker of the night. We finally get to talk to all three judges. So in 30 seconds or less, let us know if we're going on to the next round, or if we're going to have a winner.
I'm gonna have to give it to Kevin. It's just he put a lot of more points out there. He kept using the Rotten Tomatoes stuff, and it looked like, I talked about this after, but during the match, it just seemed that Hunter was fixated on, my movie has a less score, so that's why it's the most deserving movie for his opinion, and it just didn't stick. Just Kevin was hitting with a lot more facts, and Kevin was able to really make his point across and go verbally the distance with Hunter in that 4-minute mark. The first 2 rounds, Kevin took it. The 3rd round, Hunter was really strong in the 4-minute round, but this one, it seemed like Kevin knew that he was in jeopardy, and he really went strong. And then his last-minute rebuttal or his last-minute closing arguments were really well done. So I'm gonna have to give it to Kevin on this.
All right, and that shows why we have multiple judges on there, because the same exact point for different reasons. So with that said, and your winner, Kevin Poss, as he says there on the screen, the Philosopher. Kevin, what are your thoughts on this debate, and what are your thoughts on, generally your opponent and how you played today?
Hunter did a great job, man, pushing me to the limits, making me think about things that I hadn't thought about previously. And, it's one of those things where you think you got all the time in the world, and when you start making points, that time ticks away really quickly. So that is something I will have to get reestablished in. But yeah, Hunter did a great job. I'm really proud to have faced him, and good luck in the next round, buddy.
I can definitely attest to that. That 4 minutes on paper seems like it's a lot, but in practice, it definitely flies by. So you have won, and I will be letting you know that you are moving on to the next round, and you will be playing the former / current / untitled champ, Joe Farrelly.
Yay.
How do you feel about that, and do you wish you would have lost now after hearing that news?
No, I never wish I would lose. So, but Joe is an awesome competitor in all realms. I love talking movies with the guy, so it'll be great if I can just keep up with him. I know he is excellent at finding holes in your argument and then poking those holes. So as long as I can if I can just keep up with those, I'll definitely have to do a lot more prep for him.
Bounce over to Hunter and get his thoughts. Hunter, you might be a mind reader and a fortune teller. You said the only point you're going to get was in the horror one.
Yeah.
Other than the horror one, because you know that the passion was there. I actually got a lot of passion from you in question 1 and in that last question. So what are your thoughts after seeing that? You said you didn't prep too much going into this. Do you regret that, or is it one of those things where you're going to live and die by the passion, and that is how it is?
I'm not going to say you should never prep for a debate, because of course you should, but I didn't put in a lot of prep time in this because I know these movies. I know these movies I love, and I'm feeding off of the passion that Kevin gives me when he makes arguments against me, gets me riled up, and I can kind of go back and forth with him. And that's what won me the horror one, my 4-minute back and forth was just me being able to pick apart points that he brought up just rapid fire. Even if, in my opinion, the 09 version is definitely better, I made my arguments of why Freddy vs. Jason was underrated.
And that's the fun thing about debate. Sometimes just having the ability to lie and bullshit your way to the win, and you know, having that chance to do that just shows there. So you are going to be playing Jacob Barber now in the next round for the next part of the tournament. So what are your thoughts on that? And you think you're gonna have some fun there, or is it gonna be kind of a scratch and claw like this was today?
I feel like it's just gonna be fun. I mean, I don't really stress over a lot of things when it comes to any league to begin with. I'm just here to have fun.
That's what I like to hear.
Debate's not my forte. It's not my strongest point. I have problems with public speaking a lot, so doing it on a timer really gets me nervous, and I just kind of ramble a lot. But yeah, I mean, it's gonna be fun.
Well, you definitely showcased it here. I bet if everyone put in the chat right now, they wouldn't have guessed that you don't like public speaking. You did a really good job today. You know, showing off your passion, and you know, your approach was how it went. And you know, unfortunately, it didn't go your way tonight. But we'll see you in the next round against Jacob. So, with that said, thank you all to the judges. We had Haven, Jake, and Ross. You guys did a fantastic job. Showcasing why you thought you picked who you picked. And shout out to Aaron, as always. Congratulations being on vacation at this point. We're not going to spoil when this was taped, so if you know Aaron, you know when this was. If not, wish him luck on his vacation. So he'll probably be back for the next one. I'm Henry Confidential. I stepped in. I love debates, and I love doing this. So if you made this far in the video, make sure you like the video and subscribe over here, because Movie Battleground is going to be scratching and clawing just like this. Henry Confidential, Movie Battleground. I don't remember how Aaron does his closings. We're out.